Have you ever dug up something prehistoric while gardening? How about a magical glowing plant from the future? Well, a boy named Toby has had just such an exciting day. Let me tell you all about it. It was a regular old Saturday until Toby got out his trusty spade and started digging in the dirt. He tossed the dirt aside with a giggle as he uncovered a shiny, golden-colored seed. Wow, he breathed. It felt warm in his hands. He had no idea where it came from, but he knew he wanted to plant it. So he did. Toby then went inside to get a snack. But when he came back outside, something incredible had happened. A fern taller than Toby himself had sprouted from the seed. Its fronds were huge and looked like shiny green fireworks. And Toby learned that this particular plant was a prehistoric species that hadn't been seen in millions of years. Just then, Toby's mom came into the garden to hang some laundry. She smiled at the sight of her son with his brand new plant. "That looks like a prehistoric fern," she said, surprised. "I read about them in a book once. They were huge plants that lived 360 million years ago." Toby beamed with pride at having grown such a magnificent plant, but then his mom frowned slightly. "Oh dear, it looks like it's starting to run wild. Those prehistoric ferns can grow out of control if they're not kept in check." She pointed out that the fern's roots were already creeping toward the nearby vegetable patch. "We don't want it to choke out the carrots and potatoes, do we?" Toby shook his head. His mom suggested they try replanting the fern somewhere else. So they got to work digging up the plant, placing it carefully in a basket, and heading over to Toby's treehouse. It was right next to a big hill made of dirt and rocks that Toby had been eyeing for a while. "I want to make a volcano," he told his mom, and she agreed that it would be a perfect spot for the prehistoric plant too. As they set to work planting the fern in the volcano hill, Toby noticed another strange thing. The seed he'd found wasn't just any seed. In fact, there were a bunch more buried right next to it. He carefully dug them up one by one and examined them closely. Each seed was a different color and emitted a warm glow. And just like the fern, each one sprouted into a completely different kind of plant. There was a bush covered in bright red berries that smelled like sweet cinnamon. Toby learned that these were from the Middle Ages and were used as healing herbs. Then there was a sunflower taller than Toby with petals made of pure gold. This one turned out to be from the Victorian era and was known for its ability to attract butterflies. Finally, there was a vine with leaves that glowed a brilliant blue. Toby's mom explained that this was a futuristic plant that would someday be used to power homes with clean energy. All the plants seemed to be growing well, except for the last one. The dinosaur-era vine was rapidly growing out of control. Its tendrils were so thick and strong that they were ripping apart the fabric of space and time itself, creating rifts in the very air. "We have to do something," Toby exclaimed. "If we don't, who knows what other prehistoric critters might stumble into our present day?" Toby's mom thought quickly. "Why don't we try planting this one in the time portal?" The time portal was a special place in the garden created by Toby's great-great-grandfather, Professor Kronos. Whenever he missed his old dog, he would step inside and find him happily chasing butterflies around in whatever era he chose. It worked both ways, though, meaning anything planted in the time portal would be sent back in time. "That's a great idea," Toby said, "but we'll have to hurry. If we don't get this thing under control soon, the roots will spread everywhere." Toby grabbed the hose and they started watering the vine, encouraging it to grow even faster. The plan was to let it grow long enough so they could easily put it in the time portal without getting tangled up in its unruly mass. They worked quickly, but it didn't seem to be fast enough. The end of one tendril had already broken through the fabric of the time portal and was snaking its way into the prehistoric past. If they couldn't get the rest of the plant into the portal, they'd have to chop off the tendril and destroy the plant. And that would be really hard to explain to Professor Kronos, who loved finding new plants for his collection. Toby's mom ruffled his hair. "Don't worry, sweetie, we'll get it." Just as Toby was starting to lose hope, the end of the dinosaur vine broke through the surface of the time portal, revealing a shimmering tunnel of light. With a final surge of strength, Toby and his mom heaved the basket into the portal. It disappeared with a flash of light and a swirling vortex of energy. Now, the only thing left to do was wait. But how long would it take for the plant to finish growing so they could throw it into the time portal? Would it be days, weeks, or months? Toby was worried, but there was nothing to be done but wait. Time passed slowly, and the sun began to set, which meant they were running out of time. Suddenly, Toby spotted something moving in the portal. At first, it looked like a tiny green snake, but then it grew larger. Soon it was clear that it was the end of the dinosaur vine, and it was growing faster than they could have imagined. The tendril shot out of the portal and wrapped itself around Toby's leg. "Help!" he cried, struggling to free himself, but the tendril was strong and wouldn't budge. Just when Toby thought he would be trapped forever, his mom grabbed the other end of the tendril and pulled with all her might. With a final jerk, she pulled Toby free and tossed the vine into the portal. The moment the tendril touched the swirling energy, it vanished, disappearing back into the dinosaur era. Toby and his mom watched, relieved to see that it was finally out of their hands. Then they turned to look at the time portal, which had gone completely dark. That meant it was closed for now, and they would have to wait until morning to open it again. All they could do was hope that whatever prehistoric critters might have stumbled into their present day would leave just as quickly as they had come. When the sun rose the next morning, Toby and his mom rushed to the time portal. They stepped inside and were greeted by a sight that made them gasp in surprise. All the plants they had put into the portal were gone. In their place was a huge dinosaur vine, and it was beautiful. Its leaves were a brilliant shade of blue and glowed with a soft inner light. Toby and his mom smiled at each other, knowing they had done the right thing by sending the dinosaur vine back in time. It would be safe there, away from the present day, and it would never have to be chopped down after all. As the day wore on, Toby and his mom tended to the garden. They watered the plants, weeded the flower beds, and picked ripe vegetables. By the end of the day, everything looked neat and tidy, and the girl was pleased with her work. She wiped her forehead with the sleeve of her leaf print apron. Her muddy boots squelched in the soft soil as she walked. All the plants she had put into the time portal had returned safely. The prehistoric fern unfurled new fronds. The medieval healing herb bush bore clusters of sweet-smelling berries. Even the glowing sunflower from the Victorian era had managed to survive the journey through time. And as for the dinosaur vine, it was nowhere to be seen. It had disappeared back into the prehistoric past, where it belonged. The girl knelt down in the dirt and started digging. She had found a new seed, and this one was a mystery. It was smooth and round and didn't seem to be from any era in particular. But that didn't stop her from planting it anyway. After all, who knew what kind of magical plant it might grow into? Maybe it would be a brand new species from the future, or maybe it would be a dinosaur-era flower that had somehow traveled back in time. The possibilities were endless. As the sun set, Toby and his mom sat on the porch swing and sipped lemonade. They watched as the plants in the garden swayed gently in the evening breeze. It had been a long day, but they were glad to have saved the prehistoric fern and the dinosaur vine. And now they couldn't wait to see what magical plants would grow in the mystery seed. As the stars twinkled above them, Toby and his mom made a plan to visit the garden first thing in the morning. They knew that no matter what surprises the next day brought, they would be ready for it. After all, they were a team, a family that loved each other very much and took care of their garden together. The girl smiled as she put on her favorite leaf print apron. Her muddy boots squelched with every step she took, but she didn't mind. She loved gardening, and she knew that no matter what surprises the future brought, she would be ready for it.